Good evening, you're watching Estuary News. Coming up, we'll find out about a support group for the lonely. Reflections this week comes from St James's Church in Beverley, and my guest tonight is Colin McGowan, chef from Winshringham Fields Restaurant, here to talk about his new book, A Table at the Fields. Welcome to Estuary News. I'm Hugh Richards. Time now for the news headlines.
Family and friends in East Hull have praised the local community for their efforts to help find a missing elderly pet. 14-year-old Colin Cole went missing at Halloween, but despite reported sightings, she is yet to be found, with the dog suffering from arthritis. The Find Cole page on Facebook has already gained well over 2,000 likes in support. Michelle Wing is a family friend.
She needs her medication. She's in pain with the arthritis. I'd say she's had recent mammary gland operation. It's terrible, even as a neighbour and knowing the family. It's upsetting. This was like the last hope that somebody may see this broadcast and just jog the memory and, well, it might jog the memory, oh, I've seen that dog, and it might be Carl.
Hull City Council is asking the public for their views on Beverley Gate. People are being asked to choose their preferred design for improving the realm. Option 1 would retain the visibility of the walls, and the second option would see Beverley Gate filled in with a green space, including a lawn and trees.
We've tried our best throughout the whole process is to enhance the heritage, and where we've had to take heritage away, what we've tried to do is interpret and provide lots of context information around that location. What's been really exciting about this process is the number of people that have stepped up, and actually it's created such a lively debate. It's raised the profile of Hull and also the Beverley Gate area and the importance of it in terms of the city's and the nation's history.
And a Hull academic wants to reveal Hull's hidden history. Dr. Rob Robinson from the University of Hull is reporting his book Far Horizons, reprinting it, The book showcases people from Hull who've shaped the course of history.
We were very good at doing Wilberforce. You might get a bit of Amy Johnson, you might get a bit of Andrew Marvell, and you might get a bit of Philip Larkin, but that was about it. And whereas we're much more multi-dimensional than that, and I think that since then people have picked up with things and run. And I like to think that this book played a modest part in helping that change in perceptions that's come about with City of Culture and everything.
And that's the latest from the news.
Lunch clubs are often the centre of the community, bringing elderly people together to combat social isolation. One lunch club on the Ings estate in Hull seems like every other, but it has a few unique touches that make it stand out, as Dave Nunn found out.
Elderly people can often experience social isolation, becoming separated from society. Lunch clubs like the Lonely Lunch Hour Club on the Ings estate in Hull are one way to combat that, with a number of additional benefits.
We start with somebody that's at home, never comes out, doesn't know anybody, and we'll work with them and encourage them to come and join a lunch club. We'll maybe escort them into it, and then once they've been a couple of times, we'll get them onto community transport so they can come along on their own, and then they make friends at the centre, and also they get a nice healthy meal as well. We do some mental stimulation afterwards, some activities, say quizzes, bingos and things like that, and beforehand we're trying to link in some chair exercises as well, to do some physical exercise so that we get an all-round activity through the day.
The club on the Ings estate has a unique touch to it though, as it will also help younger vulnerable adults get work experience. The club will hire people who may lack certain skills but have a strong desire to work and learn new skills. Service organisers say it will help combat the social isolation of a younger generation.
So a lot of people in the area maybe struggle with interviews, maybe struggle with a weak CV, but can do jobs, can work, want to work, and that goes for people on the autistic spectrum and also people not on the autistic spectrum. We'll be creating our first job before Christmas, that's non-funded, that's funded through Lunch Club money rather than through independent kind of grants, so that's very exciting for us. And that's what it's all about, creating those kind of work opportunities.
The residents themselves seem to enjoy the good meals and the companionship that the club offers them.
Companionship. We're all of us similar to older age group. We can get out. You know, it's better than being sat at home going stir crazy.
Well, it makes sense to me because I live on my own. I won't bother to cook a meal like this. So I come here, a nice meal, gorgeous meal, a lot of nice friendly people.
And I think they're wonderful. And they work very hard for us as the people. They deliver our meals to us. It's wonderful.
Around the corner from the Ings Club is Pelican Park. The Friends of Pelican Park group want to form their own lunch club like the one at Ings and say these clubs are becoming a vital service to the community.
Well, we'd like to obviously offer them a luncheon club, but we've got tennis facilities and other sporting facilities on site. So our idea is to engage them into a light tennis session. Our tennis coach has got involved with the group as well. So taking it from the basic chair exercises up to standing on court and doing a little basic tennis sessions will be a great success, I think. It'll definitely improve their general health and well-being, but it'll also break down isolation and barriers as well to older people, because everybody wants to have something to do, but not just that, but make new friends as well. And I think this club could do it.
Now, the renowned Winteringham Fields restaurant in North Lincolnshire is famous for the excellence of its food. Some of the best food you can get in this part of England, others would say. Other restaurants are available. The owner, Colin McGowan, has turned his hand to writing. His book, A Table at the Fields, is a mix of recipes, his philosophy of food and his adventures in cuisine. And Colin joins me now. Colin, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you very much for having me.
The name of the book is A Table at the Fields. Let's just quickly get the publication details out there before we do anything else. When's it being published?
It should be out in the next kind of 3 weeks, in time for Christmas.
And where can people get their hands on it?
The best place is to call the restaurant, find it online, and at our website, winteringhamfields.co.uk.
Price that?
£25.
Excellent. Now, I was saying it's full of recipes, but it's not just that.
No, I didn't want it to be a book just about recipes. It's very boring otherwise. I wanted to be a bit of a coffee table book as well, where it peels the layers off myself as well, finding out a bit more about me. A lot of regular customers often ask me about my background, my story, my family, and this book provides them of information for that.
So it's a very personal sort of account of your relationship with the chefing business.
Yeah, do you know, I've been at Winteringham Fields for 10 years now, and in that 10 years there's been recession, there's been highs, there's lows, there's winning accolades, there's losing accolades, there are learning how to be thick-skinned, 3 daughters, a convenience store, opening a new pub, so there's been lots and lots going on, and I think it reads well, telling the story of that.
Well, let's just talk about the restaurant itself, because it's not quite what one would expect as one goes through the doors of a restaurant.
No, I mean, absolutely, it's a unique experience. The dining experience is a collaboration of all the different staff that we have, different cultures that we have within the restaurant. There's no menu. Well, there is a menu, but you don't really know what it is. You sit down, you are fed my 10 courses that we rear. I think the other unusual or unique factor that we have is every vegetable is grown on site. All our meat is reared. All our sucking pigs, all our game is shot locally and served that week.
So this is food that you have literally reared from the seed, or from babyhood,
yeah,
as it were. And
the chef and I, we go out and we plant the seeds, we look after it, we grow, we nurture, we pick, we cook, we serve, and we listen to the customers' feedback afterwards.
So you know it's good because you made it.
Yeah.
What style of cooking would you describe it as? Can you give, I suppose,
well,
genre
you try and put your personality on the plate. That's the key. Flavour first, creativity next. But it's French kind of culture. It's very much a classical cooking with a creative twist, making sure that what you're eating is full of flavour, but it's like, wow, how has he done that? It's very important that they have an experience, and because you don't know what the next course is coming or what wine you're having with that next course, it just kind of creates that jeopardy and excitement that you maybe try new things you've never had before.
Maybe this is what all restaurants should be, because we turn up at a restaurant, we order our food from the menu and we order a wine from a wine list. We're not experts at this. We're not gourmands or gourmets,
Absolutely.
and it should be the chef who is an expert who's deciding what it is that's going to
How
be
many times
to
you-
create a work of art.
Absolutely. How many times you go to a restaurant and with creatures of habit, you go, I love prawns, I'll have the prawns, and I love my main course, or I love lamb, so I'll have the prawns and my lamb, and done. Because you've had it all every time you go, or if you go to a steakhouse, you always have the same cut of meat. Here, if you knew what the menu was prior, you'd say, oh no, I can't have oysters, and no, I don't want the chicken wings, and I don't want this, and I don't want that. But you don't get to see what it is. Of course, if you're diabetic, gluten-free, we can cater for your requirements, but it just pushes your boundary a little bit to give you an experience.
Well, because you've got somebody who knows about food who's making those decisions for you.
Absolutely, it's very seasonal.
This book is, there are some recipes in it. I don't want to suggest
No,
it's,
yes, there are.
it's nothing but sort of philosophy and narrative. But are they recipes that anyone could cook at home?
Yeah, do you know what? There are. We start off easy. We start off with the basics, working all way up to things that guests have seen where it's mind-blowingly difficult and complicated. But if you follow the structure properly, you should be able to achieve them. But at the end of the day, it's about a book that I want you to trust. When you pick it up, you go, I'm going to cook something from Colin's recipes, and they're going to turn out well.
And it's going to be absolutely delicious. And everybody can get, you don't have to raise your own pigs.
You don't have to raise your own. A good quality butcher will suffice.
Colin, we'll come back and talk a bit more about your own backstory after the break. Welcome back, you're watching Estuary News. Still to come, we head to St James's Church in Beverley for reflections, and we'll bring you all the latest local sports news and results. Still with me is Colin McGowan talking about his new book and his philosophy of cookery. You have an exotic background in various kitchens.
Yeah, as you know, I live in Wintringham at the moment, but I was born in Africa, in Zambia, moved to Abu Dhabi when I was 6, worked in France in the Loire Valley, back to the Middle East, and now I'm in Wintringham, so who would have thought?
And when did you start cooking then? Did you start cooking in Abu Dhabi?
I think the cliche is very true with me. I always used to like cooking with my grandma and watching her make the pies, and she had the best Yorkshire puddings, and I just liked cooking. Never thought it would be a career for me. I think engineering was meant to be my career. My father was an engineer. I always used to like, listening to him and his work and things like that. But it just wasn't for me, It turned out that I think the passion turned into a career for me.
And you went to France, and that was for a sort of a formal training.
Yeah, when I was 17, I wrote to all the top restaurants in France, and I'd work for free as long as they'd give me a roof over my head for the first 3 months. And this 2 Michelin star restaurant in the Loire Valley gave me the opportunity to do that, which I hated. It was the toughest kitchen you can imagine. The typical cliche of the bullying attitude was there, and I always vowed if I was to ever have my own restaurant, it would never be like that.
Well,
the standards were super, super high. But though I never copy them, it's very much, I draw on the experience every day.
I have sort of an image in my head of the cliche French chef as an absolute tyrant, hurling knives across the room and shouting words that I don't understand because I don't have the language skills. But it sounds absolute hell. So Wintringham, it's not the most obvious. I mean, the restaurant of your style and quality, you might expect it in Chelsea or Mayfair or somewhere like that, or perhaps Paris or New York, but Wintringham is an odd place to have a restaurant.
No, we break the rules of location. We are in the middle of nowhere. Saying that, we're not too far from the M62, the M1, etc. So they're good networks there, but you don't drive through Wintringham unless you live there or you're lost.
And where does your clientele come from then?
I reckon probably 70-mile radius, a lot of guests from London, from Scotland. We fly over, we have landing facilities for helicopters and things like that. So yeah, we have people coming from everywhere. But my mission is I want to get the locals to come and visit us more, because I think that they have a great restaurant on their own doorstep that they don't know about yet. So that's the mission.
Well, I'll go and fire up my helicopter. That
Yes.
sounds absolutely perfect. Just quickly, just remind us about the details of the book. It's called
Table in the Fields.
And it's available by?
It's via my website, wintringhamfields.co.uk, or phone the restaurant.
£25.
And £25.
And it's, by the sound of it, I know we haven't got a copy here because it's still at the presses, but it's a beautifully produced book. Is it very
no,
well
it is.
illustrated?
Yeah, the quality is fantastic. We've spent over a year fine-tuning it. So though we are a little bit behind time, it's worth the wait.
Excellent. Colin, thank you so much for coming in.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Time now for our weekly reflections. This week it's the Reverend Becky Lumley from St James's Church in Beverley.
A few weeks ago, I had a really lovely party with a friend of mine called Don. It was his birthday, and he just loved chocolate, so we ate a huge amount of chocolate. He was covered in it. He was somebody who was really very special to me. He was a man who had been very influential in my own journey and understanding of faith. He was somebody who was very generous with his time, somebody who used to spend his days off when he wasn't working as a vicar, decorating people's homes and looking after others. He had extraordinary faith, and he was just one of those people who could light up a room. We probably all know them. And for us, it was really difficult when he died last week. To say goodbye to him is really hard. But we hold on to a promise and a hope as Christians that this life is not the end, that there will be a new life, a hope of heaven and eternity, of a new heaven and a new earth where there is no more crying or pain or sorrow or sadness. That might seem like a really naive thing to say at this time, but I don't think it is, because Don was somebody who wasn't naive himself and who held very firmly onto those promises. He was somebody who had struggled for many years with Parkinson's disease, who as a young man had almost died from pancreatitis and had lost his youngest son at a very, very early age. He was somebody who knew the reality of the difficulty of living in our world, and yet at the same time could bring joy and life and could bring love to others. He was somebody who held his faith very dear, who believed in God and believed in eternity as well. It was a great privilege for me to know Don, and I guess many of us know people who are influential in our own lives, who bring us that kind of joy, who teach us how to live well. And it occurred to me as I spoke to his wife that they did something really special before he died. People who knew him and loved him sent him letters and cards telling him why they loved him and why they cared for him and the difference that he made. Too often, I think we only say thank you and goodbye after somebody has died at a funeral. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could recognise the difference they've made to our lives while they're still alive, and just take a few minutes to say thank you to them, to say that we love them, and to tell them the difference that they have made to us.
Joining me on the sofa, Dan Kemp, to look through some of the weekend's news stories.
Good evening, Hugh.
Good
Okay.
evening, Dan. What have you found?
Yep, the first story, this is builders are helping fund a new primary school and park and homes in the south of Beverley. This is off Keldmarsh Primary School, the land behind there. There are plans for a new major housing scheme, and it's set to get the go-ahead as long as private investors are willing to put the money up to have the school built there as well.
Right, so if you're going to build the houses, you need to build the infrastructure as well.
Makes sense, doesn't it?
It does.
Obviously, Beverley at the minute is a place that's
everything's happening.
Growing,
Yeah.
yeah. Obviously, I went to the new housing estate and shopping facility at Flemingate the other week, which has got a new cinema, new parking spaces, new shops, new everything. Loads of new homes going up there, potentially another 195 here. And all these things.
Every week we tell a story of how Beverley thrives, I think.
It's doing brilliantly,
yeah.
I think. And obviously the new kind of centre point of Beverley is the Minster as well, with the new developments.
Yes.
So hopefully that should be good for them as well.
Excellent. Okay, what's next?
Yep, the next story. This is a Lincolnshire open prison, and a report's come out that reveals that they allowed 10 inmates to visit home last Christmas.
This is not new, though. Prisoners have always, in open prisons, this is the North Sea Camp prison.
Yes, which is an open prison, yeah.
Open prisons, prisoners have always been allowed little exeats, and they can go down, spend an afternoon shopping or go out and do some work and go home for Christmas.
And that's obviously the point of an open prison, but what they're saying is here that some of them have, quite serious, obviously, they've been convicted of sexual offences, and some of them have been convicted of robbery and burglary, and some of these people have been allowed out at Christmas.
Well, they wouldn't be in prison if they weren't baddies.
Exactly. But it's an open prison, I understand that. Obviously, you're saying that also means they are allowed out on occasions as well.
Hope of rehabilitation.
Obviously, they're not serious offenders.
One more story.
Yes, the last story is Humber Street Village, which of course in Hull, in the fruit market area. They're getting new shops, bars, restaurants and flats, and now that's a step closer because they've committed now to transforming the old warehouses into these the new facilities, which are on Humber Street and Pier Street. And we're going to have some new shops and galleries and all sorts, which will be quite exciting.
You're a Hull man. Will you be using this this new?
Well, by the look of some of the pictures on here, I think I'll have to. It looks very appealing, and I really hope it does come out as it appears anyway.
Dan, thanks for
Brilliant.
bringing in those stories. Time now for the sport.
Hull City lost 2-0 to Derby County at the KC Stadium on Friday night. 2 goals from Jacob Butterfield made it a miserable evening for the Tigers. In Saturday's game, Scunthorpe United went down 4-0 at home to Peterborough thanks to a Connor Washington hat-trick, while Grimsby Town fared better. They beat Kidderminster Harriers 1-0 to move them up to 3rd in the National League. Their goal was scored by Padraig Amond. Elsewhere, FA Trophy holders North Ferriby United crashed out of this year's competition in the 3rd qualifying round, meaning there'll be no return to Wembley this time around. They lost 2-1 to Stocksbridge Park Steels. Back to Hull City now, and they'll have Mo Diarmi fit after he limped off on Friday night, and Robert Snodgrass is also in Bruce's thoughts ahead of their Capital One Cup quarter-final against Manchester City on Tuesday night. The Tigers travel to Premier League leaders and feel his side are capable of producing an upset.
The draw could have been a bit easier, but look, who would have thought Sheffield Wednesday would turn over Arsenal the way they did, or Middlesbrough turn over Man U? We've got to play to a maximum, of course, and hope that City have one of them off days, which doesn't happen very often, but let's go and enjoy the occasion, enjoy the game, and go and see if we can have a crack at them.
Ticton's Kyle Edmund has lifted the Davis Cup after being part of his side that defeated Belgium in Ghent over the weekend. The 20-year-old narrowly lost to Belgian number 1 David Goffin before Andy Murray won 2 singles rubbers and the Murray brothers won a 3rd. And that's all for the sport.
That's all for tonight. If you have a news story for us, then please visit our Facebook or Twitter pages. Details on the screen. Email news@estuary.tv or phone Grimsby 01472 31 553. Until tomorrow, good evening.
I want to see Grimsby put on the map.
Extraordinary qualities, unmatched in anywhere else in Britain.
We need to act with one voice.
I was absolutely shocked, I'll tell you the truth.
More police officer hours spent on patrol preventing crimes from happening.
Estuary TV weather, sponsored by Rix Petroleum, your local family-owned heating oil supplier this winter.
Hello and welcome to Estuary TV's weather. Tuesday will be wet and breezy and generally cloudy with highs of 12 degrees. Wednesday will also be wet and windy.
Rix, servicing the region's oil boilers this winter from a name you can trust. Get in touch at rix.co.uk or call us on 01482 838383.